it closes, it closes about talking about how freedom, and how really when we understand true freedom, we understand that the good is from God, and that we are always free to accept that, always free to exercise that. It's a different kind of freedom. And today what I want to talk about is how this might interplay with the idea that at times in our life an axis will shift. This gets very, very much into church stuff. We have definitively seen an axis shift with church over COVID compared to what it was before. And, New Church Live, before COVID, we were about 50-50, 50 in person, 50% in person, 50% online. And now it's 99.9%. And this was brought home to me in a very real way this last week, where we had just totally good online numbers, and we had 6 people in person, a clear studio audience. And that's an axial shift, and it's an axial shift that's pretty dramatic, and it creates a whole nother set of paradigm. It's a brand new paradigm. And the other shift, definitely see with a lot of churches, and including our particular denomination, is being younger when I went into this. Everything was around growth, and people were looking at models that were working. There were some that were working in a big church down in California that was working really well, another one down in Atlanta. People were sort of following those models, thinking those models were really successful. A lot of great things about them, some of which we still use to this day. But that axial shift, that orientation 20 years ago, which was all around growth, which was all around these systems and finding these systems and honing these systems, is now much different. And most churches today are in survival mode. Now, you will on occasion see a church driving around that's got a packed parking lot. That's pretty rare. Most churches are not experiencing that. I think the median church attendance, I think, in the U.S. is 43, if I remember right. It's in the 40s. Not nearly as much as what we might think to be true. And we've definitely seeing more and more attrition there with churches, with pastors quitting, with churches closing, etc. So trying to get used to that axial shift as well. So there's 2 shifts. One is from in person to online. The other axial shift is from all these growth models that were out there to this new model we have, where no one's really cracked the code, where there is not a model of growth out there that seems to be yielding a lot of success. If you look at success numerically, we can get a lot of stuff online, we can get a lot of hits, we can get a lot of reactions, we can get a lot of plays, we can get a lot of that stuff. But it's not the church metrics that used to be really functional. So it's hard, right? And it's hard some days, frankly, to not feel a little like, well, how do we navigate this? I have no clue. I'm way too old, for all this stuff. I don't know how to do this. I know how to do a dinner. I don't know how to do this. And it's easy to kind of feel a little bit unsettled by all that. And yet there's always this call, which is the call to trust. And that's so much where I want to, end this conversation on freedom. Is so much of freedom is around this idea of trust. And if you think of it this way, friends, when we're in an environment where we don't trust, where we don't believe something's in charge, what does that lead to? And here's the last actually number that Swinburne has to say on this thing of freedom. This is 2892, second to last, 2892 in the book Secrets of Heaven. He says people who don't trust, who believe that they are in charge of everything with their own lives, there's no bigger plan, etc., constantly feel troubled. They constantly become embroiled in their own appetites. In other words, like if there's no higher thing, we just sort of follow willy-nilly our compulsion for the day. Embroiled in their appetites and worries about the future, and also in anxiety. So you have worry and anxiety and just sort of, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. And that's not a real great strategy. I mean, sometimes maybe you luck out and you hit the right lily pad, but most of the time I don't think you do. I think it just ends up sort of being everything ends up being scattered, especially when it's being driven by trouble and anxiety. And what if instead we just, again, had that, we just are going to have this bedrock trust, in other words, AKA faith, this trust that God has it, that God has his plan, and yep, we clearly see an axis shifting. But the big axis, which is God, which is love, which is the Lord, which is all of those things, that has never shifted, that will never shift, that will always be true. And we can deal with our challenges that we're given to in this age that we have, and somehow God has said, like, we're going to put you in this age and here you go, and somehow we're supposed to be part of moving that forward and answers and everything as best we can, as humbly as we can. All that's true, even we may not be able to see it per se, but just that bedrock trust that there is a bigger picture means that we can let go of a lot of the anxiety with these things. Means that we can let go of a lot of the worries. It means that we can let go of believing that, well, I just have to try 100 different things because I got to find something that works. We can let go of that and just really try to live into that trust and that faith and that truth, and just live today as God would have us live it. The freedom of that, right? The freedom to just live today as God would have you live it. That's it. Because these other problems, these bigger cultural shifts, they're awfully hard to solve. And maybe there are some of you watching out there who have a lever on change. I know I certainly don't. But I do have a lever on this thing of freedom. I do have this lever that I can use that's freedom, and it's based on this idea that God's in charge, and that I can let go. I can be free of those anxieties and those worries, because there is a bigger picture. And that doesn't mean that my job isn't to do everything I can do with a lot of passion and energy. No, that's really important that we do that. But even that passion and energy has to come from this bedrock trust that God has it and God's in charge. So that's the thought for today, friends. So may you have a day of, again, like finding that bedrock freedom that comes out of trust, and thinking, just think for yourself how this freedom and trust dynamic, how does it interplay in your life, and what's the freedom that you could really experience, a spiritual level of freedom that you could really experience if you had this deep, deep, deep trust of God, and pursue that. That's a great way to go at life. So, hope that makes sense, friends. And what we're going to do now is we're going to come in for a gentle landing. I'm going to do a little meditation from the Old Testament, prayer from the New Testament, follow up with a little blessing from the Old Testament, the old Levitican blessing. And we just have a nice little quiet time here. And then if you want to leave a comment on Facebook, I'll pull up Facebook here in a quick second. So with that, dear friends, let's get a little breath and listen to the prayer bell. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a little cheery hello to folks out there online. And again, I hope all of you have a wonderful, I hope you have some really fun Labor Day plans if you're joining us from North America. I hope you have some fun Labor Day plans ahead of you. I know I am getting together with some of my kiddos, which will be a ton of fun. Sorry about this, friends. This always takes a little bit of time. Should have pulled it up before. There we go. All right. Martha, I love focusing on the bigger picture, right? And it's like, oh man, it's so hard to remember. Like when we get narrow, boy, it's hard to trust because there's so much uncertainty, right? In the world, I mean, Martha, I think you're roughly a generation I am. What a set of changes we have seen. My goodness, and how disorienting in so many ways. And and trying to go back towards the bigger picture. That's really well said. And Linda, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well, my friend. And now let's flip on over to here to New Church Live. Yeah, isn't that a great quote, Gene? Peace has in it trust in the Lord. Sorry, I just flipped away from it. Peace has in it trust in the Lord is a favorite quote of mine. It helps because it frees you up to find that place of calm in this crazy world. Absolutely. And that the example I use all the time is like with a hurricane, right? A hurricane goes over, and finding peace is learning about not how to ride the waves, but how to go under them, because a hurricane 100 feet under probably doesn't feel all that different from a non-hurricane. And I think that's the peace we want to try to find. So it's beautifully said. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. If your ears were ringing, my daughter was so appreciative. Went out to dinner with her last night. So appreciative of what you did for her wedding. Chinone, love, obedience, and trust in the Lord equals true peace. And little thing about obedience there, and this is courtesy of Walter Brueggemann, famous theologian who passed away about 6 weeks ago, and one of my favorite theologians. In obedience, he said the root there is obedir. It means to lean in and listen. And I love that idea of loving, leaning in and listening, trusting. That's a great place to be. And a wonderful day to you as well. So friends, God bless all of you, and feel free to leave a comment later in the day, and we will chat.